Hello, everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of King Arthur and the Lady of the Lake for 2021. I'm Michael Laurie, and this is my beautiful co-host, Helen Glover, and Helen's earrings as well. Back for another year. So we're very excited to be bringing you the second season of King Arthur and the Lady of the Lake, and we're going to kick it off with something pretty interesting because Helen and I have had this experience over the last few months. I might just say over the last 6 months or so. And that is around when we start to, or when other people perceive that we are becoming a little bit more successful and we're doing our thing and we're doing well in whatever it is that we're doing, we've noticed mixed and varying reactions and responses from other people. And so we've decided to talk into this and what that means for us and what that could mean for other people and how we see that play out in society as well. When people start to exceed other people's expectations of them or what may feel comfortable for them. And so we've entitled this particular episode, Damned If You Do, Damned If You Don't, The Paradox of Success. Helen, I'm looking forward to this one.
Yeah. And it's so interesting. It's kind of the perception of somebody else in whatever space they're in.
Yep.
And I think, I've talked about this before, that in different times of my life when somebody's perceived me as something, it goes within their kind of psyche to not like something else about me because that's threatened, and it generally is nothing to do with you personally.
Yep.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's a big one.
Yeah, it really is. And I've noticed this in my life. So in my book, actually, I write, there's a little part in my book where I talk about the container that people hold in their minds or have in their minds that hold everything about us, what they expect, how they expect us to behave, what they expect of us in terms of what we're doing in life and how we might respond in certain ways to conversations or things that happen. And then when we disrupt the contents of their box that they have in their own mind about us, it disrupts them. And they really want to keep us in a place that feels more comfortable for them, don't they? Because if we exceed their own perceived limitations or their own expectations of where they think we should be, that really challenges people, doesn't it?
And it's that in Australia they call it the tall poppy syndrome, don't
Yeah.
they?
Yeah, they
Where
do.
it's kind of like, oh, that poppy's growing too tall. I'm going to cut it down by the base,
Yep.
and they cut you down to size, so to speak, so that you can't be too big for your boots, and all of those old sayings that we've had around. Who the hell does she think she is? Who the hell does he think he is?
Yep.
Or they're too big for their boots, and it really does lend itself to discussions that we've had before around the fact that it's an insecure reaction. It's a behavior that comes from insecurity and
Yep.
feeling less than in themselves.
And it's very interesting because this comes as a direct result of us just standing in our own power and having a very directed mission and vision for our lives, and something that we want to, it might even just be something that we want to bring to the world. And we're very passionate and deeply engaged in this particular thing. And you and I both have that thing that we do that we want to bring to the world and expand on what we do as well, and touch the lives of more people and have a positive contribution out there. And as a result of that, we both have very big missions. And as a result of that, we've got to be very conscious and intentional about who we surround ourselves with, don't
Mm,
we?
mm,
And who we allow into our sphere, and the conversations that we allow ourselves to get involved in, and even to the point of really guarding our own energy.
mm, mm,
And there's
mm,
a lot of people out there that won't like that are in our circle now, that perhaps won't be in time to come as a result of the fact that they feel so internally disrupted by our progression forward. They can't seem to find a place in our lives for themselves. Have you
yeah,
have
yeah,
you experienced that? I know I have.
yeah. And it's what's funny is that I think that the more I've done lots and lots of self discovery, and so the more authentically you show up, and not to say, oh, this is just me being authentic. I'm not talking about pretend authenticity. I'm talking
No.
about just turning up, being yourself every day.
Yeah.
Um,
Having some really good quality boundaries as well
mm,
around what we will tolerate and what we will accept.
yeah. It's funny because I think that when when you show up with no agenda, people don't actually understand it. It might feel a little bit unsafe in a way, that how come they're just showing up with that? There must be something else going on. And it's because internally for them, they can't do that. Or there's a point where I've noticed as well that when something doesn't go well for me, there's a little bit of joy for them. If something's gone bad in my life, you can feel that, like, oh, but they're really, there's a bit of kind of smug, yeah, that's right. It's taking joy in other people's failings in a way
Yep. Yep.
that's really upsetting. And I sometimes I think I don't want to tell that person what happened, because I know they're actually going to be a little bit happy about it, that it was a difficult situation. And I noticed that, and I'm like, wow, isn't that strange that I didn't tell people something that went wrong, because I think they're going to get a little bit of joy out of it. And equally, then that's why the damned if you do, damned if you don't thing. Then equally, if something goes really well, you tell somebody and they're kind of a bit pissed off about it. So
Yep.
there's this duality of where can I go with my difficulties or my celebrations, because I'm not wanting to live a mediocre down the line existence where there's
Totally.
no real joy and there's no real sadness. I'm happy to have all of it.
Yeah.
And I really embrace that in my life, and we talked about light and shadow and everything. And I really do walk that path in my life. I have no problem with having difficulties, as long as I know that it's pushing me forward into new things that I need to discover about myself.
Absolutely.
And it's hard to find somebody who can be on that path with you, and just love all of those parts rather than have a judgment over those parts.
Yep. And I think if I were to speak a little bit more deeply myself into part of what you just said, it's not to say that we don't have compassion for those people in our lives or in our circle who quite obviously display insecurities about our own progress, if you like, or our own success, whatever that might be for us. It's not that we don't have compassion for them. It's that that's quite heavy energy, isn't it? It's quite low vibrational, heavy energy. And we just have to be very protective of our own energy and ensure that we don't allow that to permeate our own energy field, because if it does, it brings our vibration down, doesn't it? And it affects our mood, it affects our thinking, it affects how we feel, it affects our progression forward. It affects our daily tasks that we do to move forward towards our things. So I know that what I've done is that I've gone, okay, well, I see you and what you're bringing here, and I get it, and I have compassion for you, but I don't have to allow that into my consciousness, into my space. It's about what we allow ourselves to consume and how we can shield and protect ourselves from other people's feelings of insecurity and inadequacy. I have very deep levels of compassion for people who feel that way, because I used to be that person. And I totally get how you can see somebody close to you moving forward at such a rapid rate and doing their thing. And whilst they might be going through struggle, they overcome it pretty quickly and they move on. And you kind of go, how the hell do they do that? I can't do that. But you really can. You're just choosing not to take responsibility at the deepest possible level in order to do that. And so I understand how that feels. And so I can have compassion for those people, but I don't necessarily have to allow them into my space. How do you feel about that?
This is where we're quite different. And I know that is like you go, oh my God, Helen. Just and I am I'm like a total lover, like I am that all-encompassing, nurturing person, I suppose. And so I see these times as opportunities. And so I give people the space to work through their darkness with me. That if I'm the catalyst for them seeing something in themselves, then fine, I can be that board for them. But there's only so long you can do that before you realize that actually, no, you're not going to move on. And
well, I'm not quite that savage though.
I
It's not
know,
like
I
if
know.
if you've got a problem, that's it. Down comes the guillotine. It's not quite like that. I do have compassion to the point where I will hold space for people.
Yeah.
But
But
I
I
think
think that's the masculine feminine difference as well. I think that that's totally fine. I think that there's what's interesting as well is kind of um you know watching. I'm trying to think of how to even put this into words, um but to have male support and boundaries and watch you do that as well has also been helpful for me. So it's interesting, that kind of approaching it from a feminine and approaching it from a masculine perspective, that we come at things in a different way,
Yep.
and that men and women communicate and deal with things in a very different way.
And observing how you approach this has actually helped me to have a little bit more compassion for people too. Um, and so what that really means is that, as I said before, jokingly, it's not like the guillotine comes down straight away as soon as I see someone in struggle, right? It's like I'll hold space for them. And where I draw the line is if I hold space for them and we kind of go, yep, cool, no worries. And then it happens again and there's projection,
Mm,
right? That's where I'll kind of go, okay, well, it's starting to get to the point now where this is affecting my stuff, my energy field, my consciousness,
mm,
my way forward. And so I acknowledge the fact that there's a challenge there for you, and I wish you all the best in dealing with that,
mm.
right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that sounds really passive aggressive, but it just isn't. It just
Mm,
isn't. It's about me going, well, I've given you some of my energy, my time, my space, and I've held space for you in that container,
mm,
right?
mm.
And if that's still a struggle and you're choosing to externalize that internal struggle and project it onto me and continue to do so, that's where I draw the line. And
Yeah,
then if it happens a third time, that's when the guillotine comes
yeah,
down.
yeah,
That's when
yeah.
Excalibur comes out.
It's funny as well, isn't it, that when we're looking at these situations that we're in, I know that for women, we're brought up to be nice people and nice girls, and regularly as you're growing up, you'll walk past a guy and they'll go, "Smile, love. It's not the end of the world." Like, you're supposed to smile. Women are supposed to smile
I'd
and keep
probably
it
smile
light.
more if you didn't call me love.
That's right. So, but there's this kind of expectation that, oh, we're going to smile and be congenial and we're going to make things light and happy. And so, I know when I got into adulthood, it was very, very difficult for me to rock the boat, or to not then turn in what anybody ever said as that it was true. I
Mm,
believed everything that people said. So it's like, oh, you do this, you do that. Or, I was like, oh my God, I do this and I do that. Beat up, beat up, beat up. I'm a terrible
mm,
person and I
mm.
need to be better because I'm not good now. And I think through time and through my own kind of really, really discovering myself and looking at myself and knowing the imperfections, of which there are many, and that's got to be okay as well, because unless we acknowledge that, we can't ever learn anything, because
Yeah.
we know everything, but actually we know very little. Um, so through getting to know myself, I can actually now disagree with when somebody says you're this, you're that, and I can actually look at it now in a different way and go, actually, that's not true. So there's something in you that is being made to feel like that because of that. So I think
And
what
I think this
started
is where
happening.
people feel challenged. I think that's where people feel challenged
Mm,
because in most interpersonal relationships, people don't usually do that.
mm,
Do they?
mm.
They don't usually say, no, actually, I don't agree with you.
Yeah.
I think that's wrong. I think that's your projection. I think that's something you need to look at.
Mm,
People
yeah.
don't normally do that. And I think this is what repels people from that energy,
Mm,
because it's like, hang on, are you saying this is me and it's not you and I have to take responsibility and
mm,
I've got to look at myself and I don't want to do that.
mm,
I'm not prepared to do that. And who are you to disagree with me?
mm, mm.
I've
And
really
that's
thought
where,
about this.
yeah, that's where I don't mind being the person who sits in that container with them while they go through that, because it's devastating. And I can kind of go, like, I'm here if you want to work through it.
Yep.
But if somebody comes back and says, no, 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 you this, you that, then it's kind of like, well, there's no point. But if I'm showing up in a relationship or in a business or anything, it has to be in integrity for me, or I can't actually be there.
Absolutely.
And so therefore I just come with me. There's
Mm.
no agenda. It's not contrived. There's no underlying, manipulation. There's no passive aggressive communication. It's just as I am. So then if somebody's challenged by me, it's kind of like, if there's a situation where I've behaved badly and they go, you did that and that really hurt my feelings, there's something tangible. I go, yeah, actually, I get that and I can understand why that. Apologies, I apologize about that.
Mm.
But if they're triggered just by your personality, then don't be my friend, or don't be in my network. If what I'm doing for work annoys you, don't go on my business page, or don't support my business, or don't be in my circle.
Yep.
It's okay. And with social media, I think it's even harder now, because people are watching you from afar, because it's like a bit of a car crash for them. They want to know what you're doing, but they hate everything you're doing. So they're kind of triggered by you, and they want to dislike you, but they're still following you. And it's really odd. You have to be very, very brave now to be in business.
And this brings us back to our subject, isn't it? And this is a big conversation. So I think what we might do is just finish this up in a second, and then we might continue this in the second episode. What do you think?
Yeah,
absolutely. Because when we bring that back to, our subject, which is damned if you do, damned if you don't, this paradox of success, not that we want success for money, fame, and fortune, really. It's more about, we've got this mission and this vision, right? And sometimes it feels like, well, I'm damned if I do follow my passion, my vision, my mission, because then I lose friends. It challenges people, and I have to deal with all of their crap. But then damned if I don't, because then I don't feel purposeful and like my life has meaning, and I'm not following something that I'm really enjoying and want to make a difference in the world in. And so I think that's a really good place to smoothly end this and transition into the next episode. And I want to, on the next episode, we're going to speak into this even more deeply. And I want to touch on something you said before in the second episode, and that is, you talked about you are the lover in all of your relationships, and I think that's a really good segue into speaking about how archetypes can really determine how we deal with this particular subject. How does that sound?
Love it. Let's
do
that.
All right. Well, we will continue this on episode 2 of King Arthur and the Lady of the Lake next week. We'll see you then.
Awesome. Thanks, Michael.
Thanks, Helen.